So many things have ruined my childhood, so I go online to bitch and cry. It feels like all of Hollywood is up against me. They even made Optimus fly. New versions of what I grew up with are being remade, rebooted and retried. My adolescence is under attack now. I think that a part of me has died. Aliens, Predators, Marvel, DC, maybe it doesn't all quite stay.
Okay, well, except maybe for that Jar Jar Binks.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.
Welcome to This Podcast Ruined My Childhood. My name is Eric Walensky. I am your host today. With me as always, except when he's not with me, is Phil Durasmo. Phil and I are having a little bit of trouble getting some scheduled time together, so he's given me the keys to the podcast again, and I'm going to take her out for a spin. But can't do it alone. So, joining me again for the third podcast, he is the co-creator of the Cool Dads Club podcast. You can hear him on Sirius XM and on stations in the St. Louis area. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Scott Hennessy.
Crikey, thanks for having me back. I'm broadcasting from Epcot. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing great, Scott. Great Scott!
Great Scott!
So we've had a little bit of fun together. I figured, hey, let's throw another one together, let's keep this podcast Ruined My Childhood juggernaut steaming ahead. So it's summer. We're kind of past the summer blockbuster season. There's a couple still in the theaters, but the big releases have all kind of popped off since Memorial Day. There are a couple of big titles out there that this podcast Ruined My Childhood hasn't touched on yet. We're kind of holding those back for when Phil and I can get together again. In the meantime, Scott, I kind of thought this might be a fun little experiment with us two. You game for a little experimentation, Scott?
Bring it on. Let's see. What do you got?
All right. When we did Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers... Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Oh my gosh, a theme! There it is! You hear it? Are you hearing it too? It's so addictive.
I thought we were beyond this.
When we did the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers podcast, we kind of touched on the fact that it had so many different little Easter eggs crammed in there, all these other cartoons and animated kind of things. And Phil and I did the review of Ready Player One, and I kind of talked about everything that got crammed into there, and I've sort of lamented the fact that everything's turning to, reboots, requels, sequels, prequels. But maybe, just maybe, Scott, I'm maybe just a little jealous because some things that haven't been rebooted, requeled, sequeled, prequeled, and generally rebooted haven't made it to the big screen yet or a new streaming service. So I thought it might be a little bit of fun if we talk about some things that, hey, why not put them out there since we're scavenging the 80s for everything else? How's that sound?
I think that's a great idea, Eric. I just have one question. There's a prequel and a sequel. Is there a post-quill? And is the original movie just a quill? I'm not sure how this works.
You're right. You're right. The quill. Yeah. That's how we're going to start referring to the original Star Wars. It's no longer Episode 4. It's no longer A New Hope. It's Star Wars Quill. Yes, Star the Wars quill. I like that. We've invented a new language. Cool, and I think I've got a great one to start us off with, Scott.
All right, hit it up.
I think it's time we bring back The Golden Child. Do you remember The Golden Child?
No.
What's Eddie Murphy?
That's the name of the movie?
That's the name of the movie. Eddie Murphy, 1986.
Okay.
The brief premise, Eddie Murphy is a social worker who gets caught up in some sort of sorcery and otherworldly kind of battle where a child is kidnapped from Tibet, taken to Los Angeles, because why not? And Eddie Murphy is the golden child, basically the chosen one, who will save this child and bring peace to the world. Sounds like a winner, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I've not heard of that, but in 2021 they did do Coming to America 2 with Eddie Murphy. So I I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. It sounds like we can get this going.
See,
What
here's why
what
here's why it's going to work, Scott. Listen to this. Same sort of premise, right? The golden child's all, or the child that he saved rather, is all grown up, and oh no, there's an evil out there lurking, and it's coming. And lo and behold, the only person who can help them, Eddie Murphy. Eddie and this child and a slew of other fun little colorful characters. This time the child is kidnapped and taken to New York City, right? We did Los
Mhm,
Angeles last time. We got to go East
mhm.
Coast this time. While they're there, milling about in these little underground dungeons filled with mystery and magic, they find a cell, and they open up the cell door, and they don't know what they're going to find. And out staggers a grizzled, kind of slightly broken old man with a real cocky attitude. And it's Jack Dalton, Kurt
Okay.
Russell from Big Trouble in Little China. It's a
Oh, the
crossover.
crossover.
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay. You
Instead
really
of, right?
okay. I think okay. This is good. You put a lot of thought into this. I think you're going to be disappointed with what I'm bringing to the table. You really thought this out.
I haven't thought them all out this far,
Okay.
but that's my
Okay.
new idea. That's what I was thinking when I thought up this concept is let's start
Yeah.
saving some time here. Why reboot these things one at a time and make these half-hearted efforts that it hit, it missed, that didn't matter. Let's just start mashing them up, right? Let's
Well,
start some
well,
multiverse of madness
they
kind of
did that,
stuff.
and you hated it. That's what we spent the whole time about talking about Chip and Dale. You hate when they bring too much into it.
No, no, no. I hate it when it's too much, when it's
Okay,
background
so
and
we're
distracting.
yeah.
But this is just
So
Eddie Murphy and Kurt
two
Russell.
IPs tops, maybe three. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, maybe three.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But let's like at least make them related, right? Tibet's right next to China, is governed by China. It all meshes together. We never knew what happened to Kurt Russell at the end of Big Trouble in Little China. He's riding off in his truck, and that one creature that they never killed is lurking on the back of his semi truck, and then it just kind of goes, "Rrr," and then poof, nothing. So, what's Kurt been up to since 1986? Well, he's been fighting all this underground stuff, and he's been in this cell, and it takes Eddie Murphy and some wisecracks to break him out of it.
So is the Golden Child? That's a comedy, I'm assuming, right? With Eddie Murphy.
Yes, yes,
And Big Trouble in Little China has comedy, but it's more action, right?
right.
Okay, I could see this. I mean, think about the 21 Jump Street movie. I mean, that went off. They made it a comedy movie when I don't think 21 Jump Street was really ever thought of as a comedy, and I think that worked. So yeah, I could see
It's the
this.
sequel crossover that no one asked for, right?
And in my case, I never heard of.
See, and that's why it'll work because like DVD sales will go through the roof because that's probably the only way you could find the Golden Child anymore. It's on DVD or maybe even VHS.
Okay. Um, well, I want to bring up one that I have not fleshed out, plot points or anything, but a movie I always wanted a sequel to was Beetlejuice from the 80s. Michael Keaton, hilarious, really just a lot of cool stuff. One of Tim Burton's, I think, real kind of fun movies. They've tried to do a sequel for years, and I think there was one title floating around called Beetlejuice in Hawaii or something like that. They all
Really?
sounded awful and terrible, and nothing ever got off the ground. But man, I think if you could get the right script, I think it would be really fun. And I think a sequel would be great because they've started a whole new chapter. They've got Lydia is got new adoptive parents, and what their family life becomes. Like her parents are ghosts. I think that could be really interesting, and Beetlejuice is there, but also when they go to the waiting room, what?
Just the way you said that. And Beetlejuice is there.
Beetlejuice is there, but no. Well, see, he's great, right? He's really cool. But think about when they go to the waiting room, all those cool characters. There's lots of little subplots there. There's a football team. There's the guy that's hanging, the squashed tire guy. There's lots of things that could come, lots of storylines that they could explore there. I don't know. I think it's a real macabre kind of a dark comedy. Tim Burton's stylized. I think you kind of have to do. What do you think? Beetlejuice, or do you think Beetlejuice is one and done? Could you see more?
Well, no, I think you hit on something great because if you remember, Beetlejuice had a cartoon.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that.
Beetlejuice had a series of toys even. I remember seeing the shrunken head hunter guy. Remember him? He was in the waiting room too.
Yep, the shrunken head hunter guy.
Yeah, I remember seeing that toy. So yeah, Beetlejuice. I think Beetlejuice even had made it to the trading card game. Remember when making trading cards of movies was cool?
Yeah, but in that time period, everybody had a trading card. Even Back to the Future 3 had trading cards. And
well, sure. But my point is, you've hit on something because it was good enough to market that way. And honestly, I'm surprised that it never did get a sequel.
Right.
You
I think the only thing we've got right now is a Broadway musical that opened right before the pandemic, but it's the same story. It's a little more fleshed out. But yeah, what's going on after all this?
And that's what I was just going to say, that it has spawned that Broadway show. So there's something there. I don't think you're off on the Beetlejuice train there.
Just not Beetlejuice Goes Aloha.
Why not? Like that's what Beetlejuice was. At least his character, he was that kind of campy, goofy silliness. And Beetlejuice Goes Aloha. That would be like such a throwback to those old campy movies.
So play up the camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You've actually convinced me. Bring that script back. We want it.
Well, I could almost guarantee you the reason that it never did get a sequel is, but of course they could have recast, but I bet you Michael Keaton had no interest in it.
Yeah, he probably didn't want to do that again.
The only reason he did Batman Returns is because he needed money to put an addition on his house or something like that. So he's like, yeah, sure, I'll be Batman. I got to pay off this mortgage, So that's
right. I don't think Tim Burton would do it. But I can guarantee Alec Baldwin would do it in a heartbeat. He's never said no to things like this.
I think you're onto something with that. And see, so my first example there, the Golden Child, Big Trouble in Little China. I think that would be a cool crossover that you could make something out of, because the Golden Child, probably the lesser known of those two titles, but I think that would be fun to see them paired up. Kurt Russell is still out there making movies. He's really funny. And, Eddie Murphy, of course, classic comedy stylings there. So I think that would be fun. I think Beetlejuice, like you said, just genuinely deserves it. My next property here, I think genuinely deserves it. And I really can't believe nobody has done this. The only thing I can think is there must be some sort of problem with the rights. But this was a major release. It's got to be owned by a major studio. I don't know why. And now I'm hoping you've heard of this one. The Last Starfighter.
That's on my list. You're kidding me. That is on my list.
Oh, we matched.
Yep. Samesies.
Dun, 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 dun. Phil, you got the Match Game theme by any chance? The old Match Game 76? Dun, 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 dun. Hey, we did it. But yeah, can you believe?
Starfighter.
Yes. How in our age of
Yeah,
modern
I
video
know.
games, such high-end graphics that have their own immersive storylines, voiced by professional Hollywood actors even.
And Robert Preston, right? In his last role, I believe.
Yup. Yup. I don't think
Yeah,
he did anything else after that.
I think that was
I
it.
think he passed shortly after.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
That
yeah,
is
how has
hilarious. Yeah,
nobody
that was a
grabbed
great
on
movie.
this?
So I think you might be onto something with the rights because there wasn't even uh, an arcade cabinet like in arcades that I know of. Because that features heavily in the movie. It's very iconic. The cabinet. I think there was an Atari home game version.
Mhm.
A buddy of mine who builds cabinets actually made a screen accurate one like on his own because he collects cabinets but there didn't I don't think is one that existed. He made one, but yeah, the fact that they didn't jump onto that either tells me that I don't know if they're burying this or they don't want to. I mean, they've
Right.
done Blu-ray and DVD releases, so they're not
Yeah.
vaulting it.
So for anybody who doesn't know The Last Starfighter, I didn't recap Beetlejuice because I mean, shame on you if you don't know who Beetlejuice is. But The Last Starfighter, basically, a video game called The Last Starfighter is in this trailer park in pretty much nowhere America, and this kid is kind of down on his luck, tries to go to college, and he gets rejected, and he's a good kid, but he doesn't have any real options with life at the moment. But he's really really good at this video game, and he beats it. He finally beats it, and then next thing you know, an alien comes down and says, you passed starfighter training, takes him into space. Turns out that the whole premise of the video game about this Codon armada that's going to invade the galaxy is real. And he finds out the whole video game is a simulator, basically. He succeeded, and he's going to be a starfighter and help fight. Well, of course, he's freaked out. He's like, I don't believe this, and comes back to Earth. While he's on Earth, a spy blows up every last starfighter up in space who had passed apparently the tests, and then he has to be the only hope for the galaxy, the universe, really, because he is the last starfighter. And spoiler alert, he pulls it off. But it is so funny. It's got great lines. I
Great line.
still like think of parts of that movie from time to time because it really, like him and Grigg, he's teamed up with this like gung ho alien who's all
Yeah.
ready to just, and he's telling Grigg like when they're gonna go fight the Armada alone, he's like it's the odds are 1,000,000 to 1. It'll be a slaughter, and Grigg is like, that's the spirit. No, our slaughter. We're gonna get killed here. And oh,
I
it's
don't
just
remember the plot details of this. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I told you before we recorded that you would call me out on something that I don't remember the details. I don't remember even how it ended, other than he saved the universe. So when
oh
I brought it up, I was going to give the caveat like I don't even know if I don't remember if there's anywhere they can go. I just remember loving the movie and wanting more. So
yeah. Basically, they were hiding in an asteroid, and then they power down their ship, and then as the Armada passes by them, they think they're just in an asteroid. They just pass an asteroid, and they don't sense the ship. And then once the Armada's uh, uh, in front of them, aka they've gotten behind the Armada now, they real quick gun up, and then they go for the main turret on the head spaceship, because once that's destroyed, then they can't communicate with the other ships. Kind of classic, hit the one target and that takes care of everything kind of scenario. And then, but then the coolest part is they had to wait until the rest of the Armada was in range, and they go to the Death Blossom. Remember that?
no,
All the
no.
panels on their spaceship open up, and the ship just starts rotating at every like 360 degrees and just starts spinning and throwing missiles every which way.
Oh,
And
wow.
they managed to blow up every single last ship. It's called the Death Blossom, and Grigg has great lines about have you ever, tested this? Test it. I built it. Yeah, but does it work? And then he just shrugs and goes, like, what do you mean tested it?
man.
I built it.
All right, I'm gonna watch it again tonight.
I
'Cause
know. I
I don't remember
haven't.
any of these.
I got the VHS copy of this for a graduation present from when I graduated college in 1998. That was the only way you could still get The Last
Yeah,
Starfighter on VHS.
right.
Oh man, that movie seemed like it was on every Saturday. It's burned into my brain. Uh, really, really good. I should have looked it up beforehand, but I can't think of the name of the main kid, the actor. He was just he was in a couple of other things back in that era, but
You mean his brother, or are you talking about the main guy?
the main guy. Phil, you got that for me?
Lance Guest.
I failed on that. I went creative on this one. I didn't get my facts. All right, thanks, Phil. So anyway, that guy, you heard it at home. I didn't hear it. He's really good.
So I actually had this movie and another movie, kind of the same for me as a kid that I watched a lot. Same kind of genre.
Oh, just real quick,
Yeah.
just as a point on this, because we've talked about reboot, requel, whatever. I think The Last Starfighter, if they were to do it, should just be a straight 100% remake. Like no continuation. We don't want to see old Alex. That was the character name. We don't want to see the old Alex like coming back from space, and he's got a son now. That we don't want any sort of a reboot. We don't really want like a Ghostbusters afterlife of it. Like I want like a legitimate. Like the first one doesn't even exist. We're just making a brand new The Last Starfighter with a modern video game, modern graphics, and just, maybe punch up the backstory, because that was the other thing I like about The Last Starfighter is very simplistic. It just went for it.
Yeah.
What's the premise? A kid plays a video game and he goes into space. Done. They didn't
And
develop
the controls of a spaceship are exactly the same as a video game.
right down to he had to put quarters in to even start the ship up.
It really weighed down the ship with all those quarters.
Anyway, that's my last note on Last Starfighter. If you're out there, Hollywood, if you've stumbled across this podcast, if you have any sort of power, please just make it. I don't even want credit for giving you the idea. Just do it.
So love that movie. Around the same time, there was another kid in a spaceship movie. So I had both of these kind of on the same level. The other movie was Flight of the Navigator. I love that movie so much, and I really felt like the first half of the movie was he's at NASA, they're examining his brain, like just building up the spaceship, and then he's in the spaceship just for the last half of the movie, and the whole thing is like, we're not going into outer space. We're just driving across Florida and going home, and we don't really get to do much in the spaceship. So I always wanted another adventure where, he's with Max and going into outer space and actually seeing these planets or doing time travel. I don't know, how great that would be, since it's been so long. Would it be a different kid, or would it, how many? He said he was picking up test subjects from lots of different planets, so maybe we kind of see some of those missions.
Again, with this one, would you prefer just a straight up remake of the original, no ties? Because again, the temptation, because that's the trend we're seeing now, is like remakes. We're not really seeing remakes. We're seeing, well, now he's the dad. And,
I feel like Flight of the Navigator could be a continuation story, because that was, I feel like, more of a blockbuster than Last Starfighter. Last Starfighter, I don't think as many people would know the source material. And, obviously it's a video game, so it's already dated. Like, to remake it, make it modernized, I think is an obvious choice. Navigator, I mean, Paul Rubens is still alive and doing voiceover work. He could easily voice Max again.
Well, and I think this would lend itself to more of the continuation, like a soft reboot, maybe more of a sequel. where this kid's maybe even Max needs the adult, right? Like
Yeah, since you've got
let's
the
make
time
this
travel in there, like you can go for it.
right, and
And
let's
use the
maybe
adult.
make this more of a father son or a father daughter or some sort of journey like that, where Max comes down, needs the original kid because remember, the maps were in his brain, and that's
Yep.
why he needed him. So maybe his daughter or his son tags along on this journey, and then they maybe reconnect. You could do some sort of, like, kind of, parental bonding kind of movie, or you just I don't know.
And remember, he brought that.
It would work that way.
Yeah, and remember, he brought that little creature thing with him. That little sugar glider with opposable thumbs.
Right. The thing that, like, he was the last of its species, right?
Yeah, and
That's
he's like,
why.
"Oh, sure, just take it and keep it in your backpack."
You're right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe that thing.
maybe that became a
Yeah.
gremlin. Maybe that's the crossover you were looking for.
I like that. I could see, I mean, I also see myself rolling my eyes at it. I mean, because
Because Eric hates everything.
because Eric hates everything. But like, seriously, The Last Starfighter, dude, sign me up. I would love a modern version. And even if it was terrible, I would just like to see somebody put that on the screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, I'm even going to roll my eyes at pretty much anything I'm even pitching in this podcast tonight. But it was a fun movie. I never saw it in theaters. Did you see it in theaters? I only caught it on TV.
I saw it on the Disney Sunday movie, and we
Yeah,
recorded it
that's
and
how I
watched
saw it.
over
Yep.
and over. Yep.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, what's next?
yeah,
What do you
along those lines, we see that movie, I think, ended happily.
Yes.
Personally, I think that had a very, very happy ending, and if you never saw anything else, that's fine. You just assume he's back. He's a normal kid, lives a great life. Well, another creature from space movie that we've never approached again, except for a Super Bowl commercial. What if we did E.T.?
Eric, that's on my list as well.
Boom. We find out what happened to Elliot all these years, because, like I said, Flight of the Navigator ended happy. But Elliot,
right?
How did he grow up having
he had to go to therapy for sure.
Having been psychically linked to an alien that died, and then he brought it back to life with the power of his love? The government would have covered up all of that.
All of this.
And he'd spend his whole life ranting and raving. He could, never have a normal relationship with anybody after that.
Yeah.
I mean, his first kiss was because E.T. was watching a soap opera drunk at home. I mean, gosh, what does that do to your psyche,
So, there was a novel written, a sequel novel. I remember reading it as a kid, and they still had that psychic link remotely. So E.T. was on his home planet,
Really?
Elliot's still on Earth, and they still connected. It was more emotional, right? It's not thoughts. It's not reading minds, but it was the emotional link. It was pretty cool, and I don't think it was ever going to turn into a movie because it wasn't that great. It was E.T. doing his stuff on his planet, just normal, E.T. suburb stuff. And Elliot is still a kid, just going through his day, and then occasionally there was like, oh, E.T.'s happy. Yeah, I am too. It wasn't that great. So I don't know. What would you want? Would you, obviously we would want E.T. to come back to Earth, or for Elliot to go to whatever, Tatooine, what's it called? What's it called? Glub.
Yeah, I don't think they ever say the name of it, except Spielberg says the name of it in the Universal ride.
Yeah,
but I can't think of it.
Particularly Mook Mook or something.
Isn't it just the Green Planet? It is. It's Green
Oh,
Planet.
maybe that's what it is, the Green Planet.
And yeah, obviously you've ridden that ride, the Universal Studios ride. If for people who haven't, it starts off, just like the movie. You're in the woods and you're on the bike, and then the cops try to get you, and then you fly, and then you go over like a miniature town, and you go over the moon, and it's super cool. And then you're doing it. You're going to take ET home, and then ET's home planet is like you ate shrooms on the way there. And right before you land, just for good measure, you take some LSD because it is the nuttiest. There's all these talking plants, and they're singing this doopa 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 song.
There's baby ET swinging like Tarzan.
Yes, they're going bananas. It's it's like some kind of 70s style best little whorehouse in Texas
Well,
kind of.
they're super happy because when you first get to the Green Planet, it's dying, and that's the reason you fly there, is to help
Well,
ET,
sure, but
restore the planet. So now it's lush and green because you've arrived. So they're like, they're losing their minds.
they're eating all those space shrooms. And then the one big ET like leader, the chieftain or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And Liz and I still say this to each other on occasion when one of us comes home. He goes, "Welcome home. You've arrived."
Yep.
Oh man, the first half of that ride though is incredible. Like the
Yeah.
queue line even to that ride, you feel like you're in the redwood forest. It is so well done. And then the second half is just like, all right, everybody, put the LSD on your tongue. Here we go. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So here we go, Scott.
So is that what you would want the ET movie to be?
No, I'd want
the planet.
No, I'd want a darker, like I said, Elliot's messed up. It's like a real character piece until ET comes back. And then Elliot's like mad at him because ET basically ruined his life. And then ET takes him to space. And then maybe we see like some cool space stuff, not talking plants kind of stuff. Or maybe that's what Elliot needs. I don't know, depending on how addicted to drugs we have Elliot. But
so Elliot is played by Joaquin Phoenix in my mind.
Oh, right? That would be great.
Yeah, because he'll bring that darkness to it.
But see, here's what I'm thinking though. If we're trying to kill two birds with one stone here in our reboots, they don't quite get to ET's home planet. Twist. They run into Sebastian on his luck dragon.
Oh.
And it turns out that Sebastian and all that space screaming at the end of the never-ending story, say my name, say it, is what disturbed ET's home planet in the first place. And that's why ET and his friends left. And then now that everything's put back together, they need Elliot's help to help destroy Sebastian because he's a power-hungry universe monster. I don't know. I just threw that out there.
Right. So yeah. No, the Green Planet looks like it was destroyed by the Nothing. So I could see that.
Yeah.
We can do that. And the Neverending Story, I almost put that on my list, but I know they made it part 2 and part 3. Never saw them. They just the trailers looked awful. So I just figured I'd leave them alone. But, with the right treatment, you might be onto something.
Who knows? If there's any Hollywood powers that be scanning movie podcasts right now, man, I hope they're taking notes. Oh, all right. So what do you got next?
Well, the next movie that I have, I've always wanted a sequel, but thinking about it, a prequel would be awesome as well. And that is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It was from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about earlier episodes. This was kind of like the prequel to, the precursor rather to Chip and Dale and Ready Player One. This is all the Easter eggs.
Right.
I know that this is based on a novel, And there were 2 or 3 sequel novels written at the time that I believe were optioned, just never made, never filmed. But Eddie Valiant, he's solved other crimes. We know his brother died traumatically. I mean, that could be the prequel. We could do sequels where we see more of Roger Rabbit's hijinks, and Toontown is saved, right? So now it's like do a whole time there, and that's just crazy. We got new cartoons. I don't know. I know they've tried to make Roger Rabbit 2, and it just never panned out. And I think it was just technically it was just so hard.
Back
Robert
then,
Zemeckis-
for sure, yeah.
Back then, for sure. Robert Zemeckis said it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. He never wanted to do it again. So it's probably why they didn't attempt it. I mean, it was expensive. They said it was, per frame, one of the most expensive movies they had done. Just with special effects and animation.
Do you remember going through traditions when you worked at Disney?
Yeah.
And they talk about how the reason Disney is, as good as it is, it's because they bumped the lamp.
Yep.
Do you remember them talking about that?
I had never heard that in traditions, but yeah, I'm familiar with bumping the lamp.
Bumping the lamp, because in the one scene where Eddie and Roger are fighting in the room, Eddie or Roger bumps a lamp that swings wildly, casting a shadow across the room. But because it's a swinging light, the animators had to go frame by frame and make that shadow match the trajectory of the light. Yeah.
Right. The shadow moves.
Yes.
So the light is swinging. The shadow in the real scene is moving and swinging the whole time. But they had to add shadows onto the animated elements.
Right.
And the animated elements, the camera is moving around the room. So you're getting a couple of different depths going at the same time. And the only people that noticed it are animators and people in the industry. I never, noticed it or thought about it until, learning about it and then appreciating a lot more. Like, wow, that is some technical prowess, just to do it.
And the reason Disney makes that their kind of little motto when they talk about going that extra distance is because they did not have to bump the lamp.
Right.
The easier thing would have been to not have a swinging light that you had to draw over your cartoon rabbit.
Right.
But they went that extra mile to make that detail that, like you said, most people didn't notice, but you probably did notice it. You just didn't think about it.
Adds to the depth of the scene, for sure.
Right. I could see that. A prequel would be good. It'd be a lot easier because then you could get somebody new as young Eddie. And then, because obviously doing anything all these years later, you'd have to explain, obviously, Bob Haskin or Hoskin? Hoskins, yeah, it says pass, so that'd be difficult. Plus, he'd be, even if he were still alive, he'd be too old for that. But anyway, yeah, we could throw Roger Rabbit up there. I mean, was he? Oh, he was actually in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers too at the beginning.
Roger Rabbit was,
yeah.
And he had a bunch of shorts that they place in front of, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and a couple of Disney movies at the time that they kept trying to keep that IP going.
Yeah,
but it didn't go very long.
I almost heard the theme there, and then I didn't.
For Roger Rabbit?
For Chip 'n Dale Rescue. Ah, there it is. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Ranger. Hey, Scott. So keeping it in animation, and this, I did a little research on this one. Apparently, in 2001, it was announced that they're going to start a live action. I have not seen anything, any casting, any notes or anything since then. I guess over the years, they've discussed doing this live action. It never came to fruition. It did get a couple of basically rebooted series on the Cartoon Network. But I'm thinking go live action, go strong with this, find a way to make it happen. The Thundercats.
Oh!
Right?
You want to do it live action?
Yes.
But it would be animated still, though.
No.
I mean
Just
CGI, like Lion
no
King
real
was
live action.
animated, but it was live action.
No. People in prosthetics and costumes and stuff.
Oh, like Jim Henson, Phil Tippett
I mean,
style.
like any. I mean, like the
Or
the
is this more
Guardians
like
of the
Cats, the
Galaxy kind of
musical,
stuff.
the movie?
No, I mean like you put makeup on the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy and make them,
Uh-huh.
any of
Uh-huh.
those,
Okay.
like go full live action, just like I
Right,
said,
right, right.
prosthetic heads and masks and all of it. Um, I mean, you got to fix it a little bit, and as I was thinking about it, it's like, how do you fix this? Because the story is basically Transformers. It's also Superman-esque. Their planet is dying,
Mhm.
and they need to escape. And then in the original, they end up on Third Earth, where there just happened to be a mummy, a power-hungry mummy that lived there, Momra, that basically is their foil week after week after week, and there's no real. And then they just shut him down. He goes back to his crypt, and that's the end of it. Then, of course, the mutants, which were their enemies on the Eternia, or not Eternia, Thundera. I'm getting He-Man mixed into this.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought I think that would be cool, because you'd have to, though, like the coincidence that you flee your planet to wind up on another planet where like the sole
Mhm.
inhabitant is a power crazed mummy. It's a little thin. I think you could work Momra in there, maybe even as sort of a secondary character at first. You could do this as a series, I think. Maybe go kind of Game of Thrones ish with it, not adult Games of Thrones, but just started
Cereal.
off with a like a happy Thundera, and the mutants, Slythe and all of them, they're kind of, one tribe in one place, and the Thundercats are somewhere else. And then over like the course of the first season, the mutants, find this mummy, or they bring Momra around. And I don't know. I think if you took a Games of Thrones approach to it, you could and maybe give them like some real depth. I think that would be both interesting and kind of hilarious, like watching Lion-O like
Mhm.
really try and emote. Did you watch Thundercats growing
Interesting.
up?
I watched it when I was a kid. I remember Lionel, Chitara, Panthro. We had the toys. I couldn't tell you the name of their planet or anything now. It's been so long. But yeah, I laughed at first when you said that. But you're talking about really making it a serious, a serial show where it's a lot darker. I'm thinking like how Heroes wasn't like superheroes flying around. It was more like a soap opera of superheroes, right? Like this is a more, like you said, like an emotive piece. Coming to grips with their their crossover type feline characters. Are they aliens? Are they part cat, part human?
They're just all cat,
They're all
but
cat,
but they're
but
but
they're
they're
upright, walking,
up,
talking.
yeah,
Okay.
anamorphic,
And
I
they wear
guess.
clothes.
And anamorphic, I think, is the
Anamorphic.
term. Yeah,
So they were designed for cosplay even before cosplay existed, it sounds
pretty
like.
much, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd watch 2 episodes of that and before I decided. I mean, it could be cool.
And if you wanted a 2-for-1 this, you could maybe throw the Silverhawks in there, season 2.
I'm not familiar with Silverhawks, but I was already picturing them, going to Eternia and seeing the Castle Grayskull already before you were slipped up and mentioned that, because they do seem like they could be in a similar universe, especially with He-Man's tiger that he rides. I don't remember the tiger's name. Don't ask me.
He's Cringer when he's not transformed. He's Battle Cat when he's
Battle
transformed.
Cat, yes.
But it's funny. I really did slip. I meant to say Thundera. I did say Eternia, but
No, but I can see it.
Well, I do actually have a comic mashup of He-Man meets the Thundercats.
Oh, so it's
And
canon already.
yeah, and so hey, maybe instead of the Silverhawks, throw the He-Man in there somehow, and you could cross them over in that sort of respect. But it's really, really good. Basically, on Eternia, He-Man and the Sorceress and Skeletor and Evil Lyn, they're doing their big battle, and then they basically open a portal, and that's how the Thundercats end up getting into their world.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then it's, of course, both Lion. So the similarities, right? He-Man is powered by his sword, and Lion-O is not powered by his sword, but becomes, the hero when his sword.
Thunder. Thundercats.
Thunder. 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 Thundercats.
But anyway, I think that might be
cool.
good.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
But like I said, announced in March of 2021, and I didn't find anything else about it.
So the last movie I have, this is the one I am the most excited about. My whole life I've been hoping that they would further explore the characters, the world, and that is The Goonies. This was my childhood. I love this movie. And when I was thinking about what I actually really wanted to see, I don't know, like it ends on a pretty good note. They find the money to save their houses. They don't have to move out. They can still be friends. But I don't know that I really want to see what happens after that. To me, that was kind of like the climax. I really want to see their earlier adventures. I would want to see a prequel because it's not like an origin story. They're already the Goonies. They've been doing adventures. They already have a catchphrase that they say, never say die. Like, when did that come up? That seems like a pretty grim saying.
Yeah,
that they had.
but what are they though at that point? 13?
Uh-huh.
So we want to watch a bunch of 9-year-olds?
Yeah.
What kind of adventure are they getting into?
Oh, they're on bikes. They're exploring. I mean, just going around this town. I mean, they're on a beachfront. Or, okay, so fine. Maybe the pirate ship, doesn't float off in the distance. Maybe it gets stuck on a sandbar. And so then they can explore the ship some more or make it a clubhouse.
Well,
But
here's my only problem with it. I agree with you. Goonies would be cool. It's a neat property. It's a great cast, and as a standalone, obviously it's made its mark. It's classic film. The problem I would feel is sort of like with Disney putting their prequels before the Star Wars movies is if all this cool stuff happened to them, how come it's never mentioned in the next movie? If these Goonies went out and did something ultra, ultra cool, how come, like, as they're walking through the caves, there's no, oh, it's like that one time. Hey, Data, remember, like you did last time. Or, oh, this is where...
They do a little bit of that. They say, I think it's when they're looking at the map. Geez, it's been a while. I think it's when they're in the attic. They're like, oh, this is going to be another one of your, something adventures or your schemes or something.
Well, right. But if it's too grandiose, I would just feel like, how come they don't talk about it? Like Bran doesn't say, as he's chasing him, like, guys, this is just like when you blah 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 the blah blah blah.
This is like
I don't know.
Fought that octopus with the Cyndi Lauper songs.
Right. And see, and that's sort of my problem with prequels is if they're too cool, like, and then it doesn't mesh, because I don't know. That's my personal feeling on it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fine. I can give you that. But, I mean, they found a pirate cave with booby traps. They can go back and go down the water slide. I mean, they can make that their fort or their clubhouse. I mean, there's probably more tunnels and caves going to other places. I mean, I don't think it was one linear path going to the pirate ship.
Right,
that's it.
right.
There's other stuff in there.
See, and this is where I would really like to see the grown-up versions because this is another, like, how do you live the rest of your life as a kid knowing the absolute coolest thing you did was when you were 13?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that? Like, same thing with Elliot. How did he deal the rest of his life knowing, like, when I was 9, 12, 11, I don't think he was 9 or 10. I was psychically linked to an alien, and I flew my bike like across the town to save him. Like, how do you, what measures up at that point? You know what they say, you know how like people, oh, you peaked in high school, you know, like what how does that happen if you peaked before high school? Like, you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
get me to shut up about my pirate adventure.
Well, and also don't forget about these criminals chasing you and trying to shoot at you, and an old lady trying to kill you.
Right, and they're in prison somewhere. You've got to
Hmm.
live with the fact that they're still there and they got out once,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
They're
I
good at
mean,
escapes.
and now, the Goonies team is, you got a couple girls on the team, you got Bran, and you've got Sloth now?
I forgot. Yes. What is
Like
sloth? What
like
happened to him?
what right, what is your high school like, knowing, like, if anybody messes with you, you're just like, Sloth, you
Does
know?
sloth go to high school with them?
I mean,
Does
see,
sloth go
that's
to
what
their
I
high
mean.
school?
Like this is where I think a
Sure.
sequel as adults, and how did they can, you could maybe do flashbacks, or you could do, I don't know, some sort of montage leading them up to where they're at. They're wistful because, and actually, one of our friends in Florida, he actually wrote a Goonies 2, and the only thing that I didn't like about the script is basically their kids get roped into this adventure, and they're sort of their version of Goonies. And then the adults have to go after them, and they're mad the whole time. And all of their lines were like, "This isn't safe. This isn't this. This isn't this." And my only thought was, these guys should be embracing this. Like,
Hmm.
if their lives just got so monotonous, they got married, they got jobs, they had kids, they live in the same town, and nothing, like, they would be over the moon to relive, basically their
Right.
peak. So
Right.
anyway, and the rest of the plot though was kind of cool. Basically, the thing was, they find a thing about a map or a book or something that says where One-Eyed Willie's hideout was, and they 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 basically, because nobody else has been able to do it, they managed, because the ship disappeared um after it sailed off, but they chart
Mhm.
out its trajectory and this and that, and then they find out there's an island out there, and they get to this island, and anyway, it was really good, and that was my only thing, is like, no, these guys, they peaked at 13. They would love to,
Right.
live that again. So that's a great choice.
So to be clear, for our listeners, the treatment you're talking about was fan fiction.
Fan
Your
fiction,
friend written. It's
yes.
not anything that's
Yes,
available.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Fan
yeah, yeah.
fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I think you're right. The adults seeing what their kids are doing now. Do you think all their kids are friends as well, or does something bring them together? Do the parents meet up and
I'm thinking
uh,
so. I'm thinking,
reminisce?
yeah, because they stayed friends. They all went through high school. I mean, they're in the same town. I think, they'd be like the townies. They'd kind of be the legend, really, right? Like, because
Oh, I mean, think of all
because
the
they
jewels they found.
right,
If
right,
not just for that.
right. And so if they cared that much about the town, and they basically paid it all off to get rid of the developer and keep everything, then, I you could have maybe one of the Goonies who decided to leave and comes back, and maybe that's a point of contention that sparks some sort of
Hmm.
part of the adventure. Um, and the kids, maybe the kids, maybe they don't even like Astoria. Maybe maybe they've been trapped by their parents' nostalgia for that old time, and they're like, this place sucks. Why can't we move? I can't wait till I'm older. And so, like, in the same way the kids have their adventure and sort of find themselves, the parents have an adventure and find themselves.
So yeah, I like where you're going with one of them has left. He's no longer part of the Goonies, but he comes back, and it's Brand. He's left, and he's come back, but now when he snaps his fingers, he can make all of Peoria disappear. Uh, Is that right? Am I doing this wrong?
He's That's
The
a great.
diamonds they found go into his gauntlet.
Yes, dude.
Oh, that's what they were. They were infinity stones just in One-Eyed Willie's ship.
That's perfect. Dude, that's funny. I like that. Well,
All right.
but then his brother
Uh-huh.
also left, carried
play
his
football?
best friend, carried his best friend up a mountain, and he comes back all badass with the third world amulets and.
He went to Notre Dame to play football and brought with him the Demogorgons.
Oh, dude, that's funny. So, since we're going comedy now, my last property that I believe only had a movie, and again I didn't Google this. This was sometime in 84, 85, maybe 86. 86 seemed like the year like animation went bananas, but I have put a lot of thought into this. And again, if there's anybody in Hollywood who can do anything about this, I relinquish all rights to this because this would be way too hard for me to ever really approach. But have me on as a consultant because I got a lot of ideas. The Care Bears. But live action. The bears would be kind of CGI, but CGI real looking bears. Here's the pitch, right? This is the trailer. It's a couple enjoying a nice weekend, maybe skiing or hiking out in the woods. And they go to their nice little cabin. It's a real nice place. They get in there, they make a cozy fire, they're sipping wine. Maybe the wife is in the kitchen doing something, and the husband looks out the window and says, "Honey, there's a bear out there." And she just, "Really? What's he doing?" "He's staring at me." All right, I didn't put a lot of thought into it because that's where it ends. But that's how I see the trailer starting.
Yeah.
And from there, we run into Tenderheart first because he's the brown one. And so he's the first one we encounter, and we think, oh, but then we run into like the blue one and the green one and the yellow one. And it turns out there's some kind of experiment where they've been injecting emotions into bears. But the problem is that after they hibernated, they came out weaponized. And that's how they're able to shoot their emotions from their stomach when they're all like, they get to a boiling point, like almost like a Hulk rage, but instead of changing shape, they shoot. And like, I'm picturing the symbols on their stomach, like prison tattoo kind of looking, like not a nice perfect heart or a perfect rain cloud, but like real, like gritty, like something that looks kind of like, ooh, did that hurt kind of a thing. And it turns out it's been their enemy No Heart the whole time. And he's trying to find a way to erase all emotion from the planet. And his experiments on the bears backfire because he's been trying to erase emotion by injecting bears with emotion and turning them into weapons. Yeah?
Okay. You said that you didn't put a lot of thought into it.
I know. I put more thought than I thought. No Heart is their enemy in the yeah.
Right. Oh, okay. So the Care Bear Stare is the trailer. That's all you need. It's a teaser and then nothing. We don't release anything to the critics before a release date for obvious reasons. Yeah, this is also more of a Game of Thrones style thing, I see, huh?
Like, I'm picturing, like, Tenderheart. Like, the guy goes out there, and he thinks that Tenderheart's going to kill him, but it turns out there's, maybe something else in the woods, and Tenderheart just, like, throws his, like, elbows back, gets up on his hind legs, and, like, you picture, like, this again, prison tattoo heart just shooting out and like leveling the forest and destroying whatever it was that was going to get this guy. And he's like, holy crap, like Cheer Bear's rainbow just goes, "Yeah!" Like I'm picturing like Independence Day, Armageddon style, like city fights, just like cutting the tops off of buildings, with
Right.
birthday cakes off of Birthday Bear and big old sunshines coming out of
Well, if
Funshine
Hollywood doesn't
Bear.
like your idea, which it's their loss, but I think Robot Chicken would hit this up because this sounds right up their alley.
Oh my gosh, I think it'd be great. And then
That'd be great.
the capper,
Mhm.
after credits tease of the Get Along Gang.
Oh,
Another twofer, Scott.
well, not just bears. We've got raccoons and squirrels. What else are they?
The Get Along Gang is a moose, a
A moose. Okay.
bunny, basically all. I think it's there's maybe a lamb
Forest
in there.
critters.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what was their deal? Were they a band? Is that what they did? Or were
they're
they just
actually
friends?
they're just friends, and they're part of like a Canadian animation company, I think. And they
FAG.
were basically just a real nice teach kids about how to be better people kind of thing. Like they promoted friendship and working things out, and they did have a couple of like antagonists. Like they had a lizard and something else that would kind of tease them and make them feel bad, and then you'd get the anti-bully message at the end. But that was basically their thing. They were just a group of friends.
So yeah, it is a perfect matchup, right? The Care Bears, their whole thing was about helping and caring, and so
And
yeah, the
picture
Get
that,
Along
right?
Gang.
Yeah, the
Mhm,
after credits, they go back
mhm.
to that cabin in the woods, and Tenderheart is there, and that couple again. Maybe that couple is the human contact. I don't know. They could have a kid too or something, uh, and then at the end, they're like there, and he's looking out the window again,
Looking out the window.
and
Yeah,
then it's like, "What are you looking at?" There's a moose out there, and then you roll back, and it's
he's
the
wearing
mate.
an Argyle sweater.
Yes, and roller skates.
And then cuts back to the wife. Honey, we need to move.
You know what? I take it all back. I
What?
want this stuff to be made, but Hollywood executive, if you're listening to this, this is copyrighted now. You can't take
Yeah.
these ideas. I need you to look me up. Let's make something happen.
For any representation for Eric Walensky, please reach out to me, Scotty Pepperoni Enterprises.
Well, that was fun, Scott.
Yeah, that was fun.
See, I told you. Look at that.
Yeah, I like thinking about all these movies that, I mean, no kidding, Flight Navigator, Goonies, like even as a kid, as a teenager, always thought, man, I wish they'd make another movie about these. It would have been so cool.
I've never forgot The Last Starfighter. That I
Yeah.
think it adds it's on its own. It's a great film. I just think you could do so much more with better, because that was 1984. That was polygon
Mhm.
graphics still back
Oh
then.
yeah.
That was like,
Yeah, it
you
was
know,
asteroids
that was
to control your.
asteroids, like, slightly better than Tron graphics.
Yeah. But there was a lot of prosthetic makeup effects and costumes, and a lot more aliens on this alien planet. They were from all over the world to join this, fighting team.
Yes.
I would say, more diverse aliens than, the first movie with Tatooine,
And again, back to the simplicity of The Last Starfighter, how it really just set it up. I mean, they have the entire squadron destroyed in one bomb by the spy. And like I mean, it raises the question now, if one spy could get in with one bomb and destroy every single fighter pilot in space, like why did they even need the armada? Like, why
Yeah.
couldn't he have planted like 5 bombs and just blown up the whole alliance or whatever they were that was trying to mount an offensive against them? But I also love though that the alien guy, what was his name, that passed away? What was his last role?
Mickey Rooney.
No, you said his name
Oh,
earlier.
Robert Preston. Yeah.
Robert Preston. Yeah, that he was basically he was an alien, but he had humanoid features, so he could not freak Alex out when he came to Earth. Anyway,
That scene.
well, yeah, and remember he gets shot, and you think he dies at like the 3/4 point of the movie, and then Alex gets to space again, and then he and Grigg save the day, and then they get back to the base, and everybody's cheering, and then Grigg goes, "Somebody wants to say hi to you," and he's like, "Who?" And he points, and this alien thing walks towards him, and then he takes the thing off, and boom, he's there.
He's there.
And Alex is like, "You're alive. I thought you were dead." Nah, I merely went dormant while my body repaired itself. Like, we didn't know anything about his body chemistry or anything.
Right. Yeah, that's why I always thought he was so cool. I mean, I had nightmares the first time he picked up Alex, and I just remember he takes out a handkerchief and like rubs his eyes and like pops them out. Oh, that freaked me out.
Yes. But
no, he wipes his face and it's an alien face, and then he wipes it again and it's back to humanoid.
And it's back to humanoid.
Yeah.
I thought you were dead. No, my body merely lay dormant, or while my body repaired itself. What? Like what? Like he might as well have said, "Nope, I'm his twin." Oh, with all of his exact memories.
And the casting of it, especially when he's describing all this, he sounds a lot like Professor Harold Hill from The Music Man, right? Like he sounds like a sales guy that you're not sure he's really giving you the whole story. And so I thought the casting was perfect, because that's what I always kind of thought, like, I don't know if I believe this guy if he's giving us everything.
Lance Guest. I had to look it up. Lance Guest is Alex Rogan, the last Starfighter.
I already said that.
Anyway. So, Scott, if any Hollywood agents out there and loves your ideas and wants to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
You can listen to me on my podcast, the Cool Dads Club Podcast, available wherever podcasts are sold or given away for free. The Cool Dads Club Podcast is me and my friend George talking about being dads and kind of some tips, some tricks. It's a safe place to just kind of laugh and joke about what we're up against raising young kids.
You're up against an armada of children
/ aliens.
/
Care Bears.
The last Starfather.
Oh.
Copyright. Called it.
Cheers. I don't want it.
And
Eric, where can we find you at if we wanted to find more of you?
You can find me at Eric_Wilinski on the Instagram. You can find me on Facebook just by my name, Eric Wilinski. You can find me here on this podcast. And you can find me playing video games until a friendly alien comes down and tells me I'm the best of the best. I'm a space Top Gun. And I
Oh, that's the hook. It's the Top Gun Starfighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, copyrighted. I take it all back. You got to go through me for these ideas.
I said it. It's mine.
Well, I mean, you can have that, but I mean, all my other ideas and your ideas, copyright. I'm calling it right now. Well, folks, hope you all enjoyed this little Marvel What If into some properties that may one day be out there to ruin your childhood.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.
I did not mention Back to the Future because it does not need anything to be made ever.
I know. Leave perfection where it is.
It's done.